The following is an exclusive original presentation of the 252 ESPN Radio Network.
The drive starts right now.
Starts right now.
Just living the dream.
Here's a guy who gets paid to talk.
Are you ready for the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment?
No, he did. Doing a radio show, so what? The most anticipated radio show ever.
Right on three. 1, 2, 3.
Well, happy Thursday. This is The Drive, East Carolina Sports Show on your ride home. I am Mark Panicelli. He is Sam Abeles. Today's show is going to be immature and fun. Would you agree?
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, now there is that one person in the room who goes, okay, so today's show will be different. How?
What is going on right now?
If you're watching the video, you will notice some new additions to the room. And it's kind of in honor of today we have two top fives.
It's kind of hard
debuting.
to see Darth Maul.
Is it?
He's against a black background.
But
he's
you're
there.
right.
I mean, you can see him. That's Darth Maul.
Darth Maul.
And then here's a little Yoda.
Yoda.
These are yours. You brought these in
yes,
today.
I did.
Yoda supposedly talks.
But we don't have batteries.
Right.
Because they take C batteries. And my wife has those.
Does she?
So, yes, I brought some.
I feel like I just completely missed the joke.
You did. You did. You did. And it's okay. It's okay. We're going to talk about our top five
I think I've got it.
childhood games.
I don't know if I want to delve into
No.
it.
It was best to move on. It was a quick in and then boom. That's okay. Stop. Top five childhood games.
That do not involve C batteries.
Yes.
Not the games you played with Uncle Jerry.
And top five childhood sports heroes. Because we all know there's a couple of folks that listen that get a little upset when we veer off the sports course. So we will discuss our top five childhood sports heroes, which is always fun because of the generation gap.
Generation gap. 100%. I'm sorry, dude. I have gotten Facebook messages and
It's been
my
busy.
sister's texting me all as the show started.
It's insane. You got a yard sale coming up this weekend.
And that's what she's texting me about.
Yes.
And I'm trying to do everything I can to avoid having to do any of the prep work
Right.
for this yard sale. I would rather just show up on the morning of, talk
It's
to
a
some
yard
folks, schmooze some folks, stick a little bit of cash in my pocket, and go on about my business.
Head
But
on
she's
over
making
to
me
that
do work.
to that Brew Burn Beer Festival
That's
thing,
what
right?
I told her. I was like, look, I'm happy to do this yard sale, but I have an 11:30 hard out because I've got to go to Brew Burn, and I'm doing it. I'm pumping it up to my sister, so I can be like, well, I have to do this for work because they are partners with us, which is the best thing, the best
and I gotta
excuse
say,
ever, because it's so not.
As well, kind of.
It is, but it isn't.
Kind of. I mean, I
I
think
do
it's
have
good
to
that you go there.
Yeah.
Carolina's going to go too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fantastic. I think what other job aside from Matt, who works there,
Right.
is it like, oh yeah, I got to drink this beer?
Right. I mean,
It's for work.
It's for image purposes. Right.
That is great. We are going to have a great show. So we've got all that coming up. But there's a couple of things sports-wise that I do want to address. And quite frankly, I have to talk about this Anthony Davis to Golden State Warriors thing. Because it is everywhere, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
You get on your social media, you scroll through, and you see stuff about Anthony Davis joining the Golden State Warriors. Now, part of this is absolutely true. A conversation between, was it Joe Lacob and one of these beat writers? First off, understand this. Every general manager and like all these player people, they have conversations about every player. You don't think that the guys in Philadelphia or the guys in Boston or the guys in New York don't talk about, man, it'd be great to have Anthony Davis here. What would it take to bring Anthony Davis to the Knicks? What would it take to bring Damian Lillard to blah, blah, blah? They talk about all these players. And so there's a piece, and I don't have the guy's name with me, who had a conversation with Lacob, and he said, yes, we have discussed, an Anthony Davis type trade. And it's, again, all well and good, but stop right there, because here's what's happened. That particular piece has given people leverage to go, oh, wait, the Warriors are going after Anthony Davis. And so what I'm starting to see is memes.
And they might be.
And they might be,
They
yes.
might be.
They might be. But what I'm seeing are memes of Curry, KD, Clay, Draymond, and then Anthony Davis. And then they have all four or all five guys, and then they're like, this is the team. Who could possibly stop them? Right? You're seeing these everywhere.
Yes. Like, okay,
Stop.
let's put these 5 people together and see what happens.
Yes.
That's all well and good in theory.
Yes. But stop. Because there's something called a salary cap. This is all I'm saying. If you are, I think it's fun because it's summertime and we can have fun and sort of, in theory, if one of these guys wants to take less money, maybe they could work that out. If they'd all decide to take, I don't know, $10 million. Because remember, even with the 5, they still got to get 8 or 9 more players to make up a team.
Right.
And, again, who's going to take less money and who decides? Because, you never want to be, I don't want to take less money. You take less money. No, I'm not taking less money. You take less money.
Draymond Green already took $12 million less dollars is what his agent came out and said. Draymond Green walked away and left $12 million on the table 2 years ago so they would have the cap space to just sign Kevin Durant. Right. Draymond Green already sacrificed that, and his reasonings were actually kind of cool. He said $12 million after taxes and fees, you're looking at about $6 million. $6 million isn't going to change my neighborhood, but 2 championships could change my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So that's one player. It is a very rare instance, and Draymond's agent basically came out and was talking about how he went back to Draymond several times, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, people don't do this. So, no, you're right. That's not going to happen in this situation.
And he's already done it once, and so I can't imagine that he's going to renegotiate. Curry's already got his contract for, we were talking about an average of about 40. But, again, the problem is it goes up, it goes down. There's different varying times when how much they get paid. The salary cap is like $81 million, something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd double check.
Yeah, double check one. The problem is you're not going to be able to get all. And so the idea that you get Anthony Davis, if that's going to happen, you're probably going to have to give up 1, if not 2, of your superstars in order to get him. Because he's a max contract guy. And you can have 3 of them. And listen, here's what I want to say. Curry, KD, Anthony Davis, it's a formidable team. They could win championships.
Oh, of course.
But you notice what's missing there. No Klay Thompson, no Draymond Green.
Mm-hmm.
So
your salary cap this year was $94.14
94,
million.
okay.
You can exceed that, and you get into the luxury tax where basically you're paying the players, and then you're going to be paying the NBA for going over. But even that caps out at $113.29 million.
Wow.
So people will be like, well, you can just pay luxury tax. Well, no, there's even a cap on that. And by signing Anthony Davis, and if you think they're going to somehow keep those 5 guys together, then no, it's just quite simply not going to work. I think the only way you see this happen is you're going to end up seeing a package that looks something like Jordan Bell, Andre Iguodala, either Clay or Draymond, and several first-round picks. That's what it's going to take to get Anthony Davis. And I'm not going to sit here and say that would be a bad move. I think you can move whatever you want. And if you've got Steph and you've got KD and you've got Anthony Davis, then yes. I think you're once again solidifying yourself as the favorite. But is that the route that Golden State wants to go here when they've already won 3 championships
without him?
Without him.
Yes. I mean, here's the other thing. If you're the New Orleans Pelicans, you're probably going to lose Boogie Cousins this offseason. So your relevancy is Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. If he's gone, it's Rondo. It's
right.
You know what I mean?
Tyreek Evans, right? I think he's with Memphis, but same player.
It's absolutely over, man. So if you're New Orleans, you're not taking a deal. I mean, unless he comes to you and says, "I'm not re-signing as soon as this contract is over. I'm done." And I don't know what the length of his contract is with New Orleans, but the truth of the matter is, if I'm New Orleans, there's no way I'm trading him because it keeps me relevant. It sells seats. Otherwise, you're going back to a franchise to me that nobody cares about.
Davis right now is technically under contract through the 2020-2021 season.
Yeah.
That's when he'll hit restricted free agent, unrestricted free agent.
I don't look for him to be sent out of New Orleans anytime soon.
No, I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, it's
especially if Boogie's gone.
Yeah, and realistically, because we like to play the trade game, I think there's only one team that could make that trade for Anthony Davis, and I do think it is the Golden State Warriors. I don't think there is a single other team in all of basketball that has – I mean, even Boston is right there, but I feel like Boston would have to blow up too much of the young core just to get Anthony Davis or give away every single draft pick that they've worked so hard to get. But other than that, the asking price for Davis, because like you're saying, as far as relevancy for the Pelicans go, once they lose Davis, they are in full-blown rebuild mode. And I think if you still have a young Anthony Davis – why do you want to go into rebuild mode? This is a Pelicans team that really, quite frankly, and nobody thinks about them this way just because the Pelicans don't have any tradition of being a powerhouse basketball franchise. They're extremely young.
Yes.
They are in a position as a franchise where it's like, okay, we need to be the aggressors in some of these off seasons and pursuing some of these free agents. They're the ones who are going out and looking to sign the Anthony Davis. You know, that's what they're looking to bring, the one or the two pieces in, because that's the only way you're going to win. I hate when anybody looks at an NBA team and thinks that NBA team is going to be okay with giving up the star because, they're not going to win. Like, you're not going to win with 4 or 5 or 6 mediocre guys. You have to have at least 2 superstars. You've got to have 2 guys that are in the top 10 and then surround them with as the best weapons you can. But if you give one up, then you're saying, okay, we are just succeeding to the fact that we're not going to be good for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, you got to have 2, stars, like 2 just game-breaking players, top 5, top 10, top 20 players. Then you got to have 2 all-stars, two guys that can just can do things, not necessarily superstars, but capable of doing
having the big night,
absolutely,
or applying some incredible defensive pressure, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then you got to have 4, 5, 6 just really good role players. I mean, just guys who know what to do and can do it and will do it. And then beyond that, again, you got to have a couple more pieces to kind of fill in the gaps. And that's hard. I mean, it
is hard. But I mean, look at the Final 4 teams this year, and look at. Don't start with the top. Start with like the 4th or 5th best guy. Look at Boston. Their 4th best guy, Terry Rozier, who had an incredible postseason. You look at Golden State. Their 4th best guy, Draymond Green.
Right.
Like that's why they're so good. The Houston Rockets' 4th best guy, Eric Gordon.
Right.
Trevor Ariza. There's a lot of talent
the
there.
Cavaliers,
4th best guy. JR, and you see how that worked out for him. But the Cavaliers are a bad example because they have LeBron. But if you don't have LeBron, there is no other LeBron. As good as Anthony Davis is, he's not LeBron because LeBron's special because he literally impacts every single aspect of the game. And Anthony Davis, while he can bring the ball up the court, there are things he's still limited in at his game.
Yeah.
So it's stupid. The whole point here is that Anthony Davis is not going to be on the Golden State Warriors unless the Warriors look drastically different and the Pelicans just don't care about even trying to be good.
And I guess I have to also just throw this in there. The Bryce Harper story that got broken yesterday, some anonymous National League executive said a bunch of negative things about Bryce. One, that he wasn't a good team guy.
Overrated and a losing
player. Overrated, a losing player. He'd be lucky if someone gives him 10 years, $300 million. I'd be surprised. Something like that. Well, and listen, you may be right about the not a team player. I don't know because the only people who know that are in the Washington Nationals locker room. What I do know is he's a pretty decent player. Overrated. I mean, listen, the batting average is terrible this year.
He's never had like the one huge year.
Yes.
He's
an average fielder too. And baseball people, they really, it's like if you're a terrible glove, it's a huge detriment. That's where they start to tear you down. Right. So
we saw him make an error when we were up there
absolutely.
The other week.
not a great glove guy and The batting average this year is absolutely terrible. He's hitting like 220 or something like that, 218.
But he's still a spark. He's still a guy that can come out and hit you 40 home runs easily in a year. He's already got an MVP under his belt. The thing that made me laugh was the losing player line.
Yeah.
Because this isn't like set in stone and like a definitive example of why Bryce Harper isn't a losing player, but there's stats that kind of back up that he's really not. So since Harper joined the lineup in 2012, the Washington Nationals are 473 and 357. That is a 570 winning percentage. Okay, so 57% of the time the Nationals have won since Bryce Harper joined the team. Do you want to take a guess how many teams there are other than the Nats that have been good in that span? Have been that good in that span?
You mean like better than the Nats?
Like, has anybody had a better winning average since 2012 than the Washington Nationals?
Probably like 3 teams tops.
One team, just
Wow.
the Dodgers, and they were at 57.1 winning percentage. Wow. So for the last 6 years, the Nationals have literally been the second best team in baseball. Now, it hasn't happened in the postseason,
right.
And Bryce has had his little slumps here and there. And the attitude thing might be a real thing.
Yes,
I mean, we've always
be.
kind of laughed at him and joked at him, but at the same time, he's not one of these guys who is constantly coming up in the media and making a story about him or
right.
anything. You don't ever hear any bad PR for
no,
Bryce Harper that you maybe hear about some quote-unquote diva players in other sports.
Him and the closer from Boston and Philly,
Papelbon,
had that little incident.
Was a psycho.
But, yeah. That was it. So, my take on this is, listen, if you could get him for 10 years, $300 million, you'd sign him today. I don't think there's a National League team that if he would say, I'll take 10 years and $300 million. Okay. Just shake your head yes and have him sign on the contract. It's going to probably take a little bit more than that, and he's going to be a little more picky and choosy about where he goes. I don't know what those teams are. Everybody talks about Yankees, Cubs. I think Washington's probably in the mix as well, but Bryce Harper's good for baseball. As I was telling you, the one thing that he does is he brings eyeballs to the TV. When there's an at bat, if you're at the sports bar watching and then Bryce Harper's at bat, you're gonna stop eating the wing long enough to see what he does.
Right.
He has that sort of appeal.
I guess. My only thing is with baseball and these contracts, I think baseball is really doing itself a disservice by handing out all these like 10-year contracts.
Yes.
That's the thing where everybody needs to be looking at. Like, don't sign anybody
for
10 years.
If you're going to have a 10-year contract for a guy, if I was him, I wouldn't want the 10 years because I don't know what the span of a life of a team if you're going to be good for 10 years.
Right.
If I'm a player of his age who's like, what is he, 24?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
24,
young.
25, yeah.
I mean, so even when he's done, he's going to be 34. He's still probably got 4 years left of baseball. If I were him, I'd only do a 5-year contract. That way, if somehow whatever team I signed with found itself at the end of that 5 years not playing well, I could, explore other options. But again, listen, the problem with not taking the 10-year thing is it's all guaranteed money. So
right, and
if you go and you bust your hemoglobin, because I'm not a doctor.
Right.
If you go and something bad happens to you, then you got the $300 million. And certainly if you only signed a 5-year deal, you'd be mad at yourself that you didn't go ahead and take the $400 million contract when it was offered to you.
Right.
So it's the job security. But I'm with you. 10 years is a heck of a commitment.
It is a heck of a commitment, and it's not even just 10 years. It's like the order of the 10 years. So the perfect example of this is the Albert Pujols contract that he signed back in 2012 with the Angels. It was a 10-year deal. The first year of that deal, when Albert Pujols was still 32, he was making $12 million a year. He is under contract through the 2021 season. When he is 41 years old, the Los Angeles Angels are going to owe Albert Pujols $30 million that year. They back end these contracts, and they're heavy on the back end. And that's a terrible idea because then when he is 39 years old and you're like, man, Albert Pujols really hasn't been good in 4 years, it's impossible to trade him because of the tag that comes with him. But if you say, okay, Albert Pujols in your prime, let's give you $30 million here, but then we're going to keep you on this 10-year deal, but when you're 40 and you're making $10 million, we can maybe trade you to, I don't know, the perfect team would be just some team who's looking to make a run in the postseason that needs to pick up a DH. Like that's when you can move Albert Pujols. So if whatever team, whoever signs Bryce, I mean, I want him. Send him to Chicago. I'll take him in a heartbeat.
Philadelphia will take him right now.
Do not sign him to one of these 10-year backloaded deals. Like, if you're going to do the 10-year deal, load it up on the front end.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. Go, or if you got to do it 1 year, odd years, even years, I'm with you. But don't put it all on the back end. We have a great show for you today. 2 awesome top 5s. Sports Trivia Battle is returning next week. Sam and I will engage in Sports Trivia Battle. You could win Washington Nationals tickets and a Washington Nationals swag bag. So we're going to be replaying parts of last year's Sports Trivia Battle. Stick around, though, a little bit later today. I'm going to try to explain to Sam in American terms why some Americans call it football and why they love it the way they love it. So as World Cup began today, by the way, with a terrible, terrible, terrible match. We'll take a break.